Welcome, tennis fans, to another edition of the Changeover Chat, the TennisONE app. Today, we are pleased to welcome the CEO of Slinger, Mike Ballardie. Mike is an industry veteran. He's had executive stints at Wilson, Prince, a number of other major tennis companies. He's been involved in tennis his whole life, and we're happy to have you here, Mike.
Thanks, Randy. Yeah, great to be on the show. Very cool.
Well, let's. I want to go into your background in tennis.
Yeah.
I know you've been involved in the sport your entire life. Did you start off playing tennis as a kid?
Yes, yeah, way back, so in the 80s now. So I was a pretty good junior. I'm based in London in the UK, so I grew up playing tennis here. I was a pretty good junior. Felt I could play on the senior tour, or the lower ranks of it anyway, at one point. Went out and tried that for a little while, realized that wasn't good enough. I played McEnroe one year in the UK pre-Wimbledon when he was 17. No one had heard of him. And of course, I lost in a very close match, actually. But 5 weeks later, he was in the semi-final of Wimbledon. So, he went one way and I went another way.
Well, yeah. Was that the year he was wild carded in, and then he lost to Jimmy Connors in the semis?
Yeah, that's right.
That's impressive.
Yeah. So then I took I did a 7 or 8 years as a teaching pro in Germany. When the whole tennis German boom was coming along, and then eventually decided that I should get what I call a proper job, and was lucky enough to get into Wilson and stayed there for 13 years, and ran their racket sports division internationally. So when people like Jim Ball were running the US, we were running the international division. So yeah, I had some pretty good success there. Introduced a couple of very famous products to the market. ProStaff Classic, we called it in Europe. In the US, it was ProStaff 6-1. So dealt with all the players. We signed Edberg and Sampras and Krajicek and Steffi Graf. That was an interesting signing. So anyway, so did a lot of that, and then I actually left tennis and went to join the VF Corporation, and I was offered the opportunity to build a book bag brand called JanSport. All the guys in the US will know who JanSport are for sure. Yeah. So I built that business internationally for them for 7 or 8 years, opening distributors and companies and retail stores and license operations all over the world, and then got sucked back into tennis with some former colleagues of mine at Wilson, who had got together, and we had an opportunity to buy Prince. So 4 of us, together with a private equity group, we bought Prince in 2003.
Okay.
And then through there, we launched the 03 concept to the world of tennis, which of course propelled the company to was the #1 brand spot in the US. At that time, and we had 100 players using 03, including a very famous little Russian called Davydenko, who had been scurrying around the tour, and then went on to win the ATP Masters with an 03 tour racket. So it was a big deal.
And David Ferrer has been using that.
Yeah. David Ferrer, Juan Carlos Ferrero, Sharapova used it. As I say, we had 100 players, and every player that picked it up increased their ranking. And probably still today, it's on a par with the ProStaff as one of the all-time great tennis rackets, I would say.
Yeah, and the ProStaff Classic and the 6.1, as I was a junior growing up, or a little after my junior tennis years, those 2 rackets just blew up in the United States across a lot of really good juniors, college players. The 6.1 and the ProStaff Classic, great rackets.
Yeah, well, I spent a month with a designer in London, and we came up with that little red and yellow dash on the 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock part of the racket, to try and keep it as black as possible and as friendly for the tour players as possible, but getting some way to notice it. So it was pretty cool.
So let's get into Slinger. Very, very impressive new brand. I think you've been the CEO for over a year, maybe 2 years now.
So I joined. I got involved in Slinger at the beginning of 2019. So, which is also an interesting story. So, through some of the private equity contacts I'd had over the years, having being an owner at Prince, one of them called me up one day and said, "Hey, Mike, have you seen this new thing online, Slinger? Go take a look at it." So I went, had a look at the video, which is still the same video that's on slingerbag.com today. And I said to myself, my tennis antennae picked up, or my tennis gut instinct kicked in, and I said to myself, if it's anywhere near as good as it looks, it's going to be a fantastic piece of kit for tennis.
Oh, yeah.
So within 48 hours, I'd met the founder, tried it for myself, and become the CEO, and agreed to build it from nothing, basically. So, from that day forward. So yeah, it's been an interesting ride, and I would say today, Slinger bag might be the hottest product in tennis today. Actually. So.
Absolutely, and I remember seeing you down at the TIA convention down in Orlando, and that was the first time I had seen the Slinger bag. And we talked about it, and I remember telling you the story in a very good way, that it reminded me a bit of a golf bag that Rodney Dangerfield carried around in Caddyshack. That giant bag that had a beer tap on. I know you don't have a beer tap, but it was just so impressive because it did so much more than the average ball machine. And my experiences with ball machines over the years at clubs, I remember also talking to you about this, has never been great because the availability, there are all kinds of issues over the years, and I'm going way back, but what court can I use the ball machine on? Is it even available? How do I work it? Is there a pro that's going to help me? Do I have to put the screen? Do I have to pull the screen because I'm on a teaching court? All of those quote issues with ball machines, you guys have an answer for. So can you tell me a little bit about the technology and why it's going to revolutionize this business?
No, absolutely, yeah. So I think first and foremost, it's a product that's designed by tennis players for tennis players. So the founder, the guy that invented or came up with the idea of Slinger, luckily he's one of these guys. He's fairly successful in life, and he's able to play tennis a few hours a day. He went through exactly the same experience that you described with a traditional ball machine at his country club, and said, there must be a simpler way, and came up with the idea of putting it into a traditional roller duffel. Created a concept, took it onto a Kickstarter campaign, got an immediate impact of 3,500 people who wanted to buy it, raised $1 million, and said, okay, we've got something that's quite serious here.
Right.
Then I saw it, got involved, and exactly as you say, when I describe Slinger to most people, I describe it as a golf bag. Actually, I say, if you're a golfer, which I play more golf than tennis today, probably. So I keep my golf bag in the car. I've got all my stuff in my golf bag: the clubs, balls, tees, waterproof shoes, food, you name it, it's in there. Right. And actually, Slinger is a version of the golf bag for tennis. You put all your stuff in it, keep it in your trunk of your car, take it to the court, go hit some balls for half an hour. That's never been possible in tennis before. So in terms of the technology, we've spent a lot of time refining the product over the last 18 months. I think we've been through about 8 iterations. But it's very simple. We try to make it as lightweight and as portable as possible. So the actual bag it's sitting in, if you went to a department store, Neiman Marcus or somewhere, and bought yourself a pretty expensive roller duffel bag to go on vacation with, I guarantee you this bag is equal or better than that quality of a bag. So the bag itself is very impressive, and that helps keep the weight down. And then of course we built the launcher machine into it. To be honest, of course, it's a very simple launcher, meaning it's only got one wheel. It generates some nice topspin. It's got some nice weight on the ball when the players hit with it, and it's very, very simple to use. Basically, put it on the court. You can vary the speed, you can vary the feed rate, and you can vary the angle, and you can oscillate left to right. So it's pretty simple, very basic, and everyone can use it.
And I know you have a partnership with Wilson, because some of the bags I think come with brand new Wilson balls, and that was another issue with the ball machines at country clubs. It would have dead ball, and when I mean dead balls, I mean these were dead balls. I mean teaching pros just throw them in there, and it seems like that's the idea with the new Wilson ball.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right, Randy. Yeah, so with all the testing we did, of course, a ball machine is designed to deal with a regular sized tennis ball and balls of consistent pressure. So if you use very old tennis balls that have been used, and some have got felt, some of the felt's worn off, some are harder, some are softer. the ball's going to get stuck in any ball machine, you know. So we highly recommend that you use new balls. And actually Wilson, you know, innovated and came out with the Trinity ball, which is a pressurized ball without a can and without a lid, and you know, and it's, you know, recyclable. So we felt that was a really great option to get involved with. Hans Martin, who runs Wilson, is a very, very good friend of mine. We worked together with Wilson way back in the 80s. In fact, I, you know, brought him into the business at one point, and you know, we've had a lot of success together. So it was a natural fit for the tennis ball part of things. So you know, and we're very happy with that. The ball's a great ball. I think it's getting good traction generally in the United States. So you know, it's a partnership that's really going to evolve over time and you know, become important to both Wilson and to Slinger.
That's great. And you have 4 different bags at different price points and obviously different features. Personally, I like the Grand Slam Champion, which is the highest end.
All right. Yes. Yeah. We start. You know, the basic bag is $550, and then we have what we call a Grand Slam pack, which includes the oscillator, the ball tube, which is an innovative telescopic pickup tube for tennis balls, not like the regular ones, holds twice as many balls. And it includes the oscillator, which helps the bag to rotate left to right, and a cute little camera holder so you can video yourself while you play. And then, of course, yeah, you have the player pack with a case of balls, and as you say, the champion pack with 2 cases. So, yeah, it's been very successful. In fact, over the last 90 days, we've had such demand for Slinger that we decided to run a pre-order campaign on our website in the United States. And I think as of yesterday, we've just cleared $1.5 million in orders, which is incredible. And that's with a 60-day wait time. So we're asking people to pay their money today and wait up to 60 days to get it, because we
Right.
can't fill the inventory fast enough.
Right. So your global distribution, I just saw you did a deal in, I think you're distributing the bag now in Australia. It seems like that's right. It's been exponential over the last few months.
It has, yes, of course. Through all of my contacts in tennis, I know pretty much all of the major tennis distribution partners around the world. And so we started with the second largest market after the US, which is Japan, and we signed those guys up in February this year, and they started selling in July. Followed by we're getting close to making a final deal in Europe for Germany, France, and some other markets, which we'll hope comes together in the next couple of weeks. And then you've got markets, important tennis markets like Australia and New Zealand, which we've signed up, and the UK. So we're trying to pick our markets in order of importance, just because we don't have enough inventory to supply everybody. We've got to be a little bit careful that we don't create too much of a demand that we can't supply. So, there's it's a positive problem to have, but we're working on increasing production over time, over the next few months, to try and alleviate that problem. But it's just where we are today.
Yeah, and you've signed. You're no stranger to signing players for endorsements. I know you have interesting to both the Bryan brothers and Nick Ballardie, both at least ex-Prince users for about 15, 20 years or more. Yeah. I don't think that's a coincidence. Maybe it is.
No. I've obviously known them really, really long time. And Nick, of course, globally, the tennis ball launcher is really aimed at helping you improve your skills. And so having Nick on board as probably the most famous coach in the world, he's provided a number of hours of drill videos that are going to be on our website. He's going to be available to answer people's questions about how to improve any of their shots and things like that. And he's just generally a great guy, as you know Nick well enough as well. He's a great guy when it comes to talking tennis. So, and then Mike and Bob, of all the tennis players I've dealt with over the years, I would say Mike and Bob are the consummate professionals. They really do a great job for the brands that they work with. I mean, they're always promoting, they're always talking positively, they're always helping, and we've got them involved behind the scenes, and we're in the process of putting an advisory board together, and of course those guys will be a big part of that. But in addition to that, I got to say that I've, through all my contacts with the player agents and various connections, I would say today I've been lucky enough to get 12 of the top 20 players are now using a Slinger, and that includes Roger and Rafael Nadal and Djokovic and Andy Murray's got one, Wawrinka's got one, and actually last week on our social media, Venus Williams asked for one, so she's got one. Sophia Kenin, who's based in Florida, has got one. You know, so it's good enough for these top players, and I've got videos of them using it. They're not endorsing our product, so I can't advertise, you know, their use of it in any way other than to say we've provided them one. But you know, I'm hoping, like many new brands in a market, that one of them will take it upon themselves just to put something on social media about it, and of course that would be, you know, very nice.
Right. Well, as far as marketing goes, you mentioned social media and all these brand ambassadors and pros that are using Slinger bag. What's your ultimate strategy as far as targeting specific demos? Are you looking for beginners? You're looking for advanced players across the board, all ages? Is there specific place you're trying to really hone in on?
Yeah, no, it's a good question, Randy. So, you know, I think, you know, like, you know, we all can, you know, having been in the industry a long time, we know what the tennis market is. And in the US, you know, if you believe the data, there are 5 million what they call avid tennis players in the United States, and they're across all ages. These are people who are playing once a week, and really that's our bullseye consumer. It's more not about your age or your ability, it's about how often you want to play, you know, how often you play at the moment. But I also think Slinger is going to be a great thing, and we've had a lot of conversations with various tennis federations, including the USTA, about how Slinger can actually help tennis as a sport increase its play occasions. Because if you have a Slinger, more than likely you're going to play more often, you know, because you don't have to find a partner than on a regular basis. So more tennis will get played, more balls will get used, more racket strings will get, you know, have to be restrung, and so it's going to be a general help, I think, you know, to the industry overall in growing a little bit of the play occasion participation, and maybe even helping some new beginners to tennis, you know, get their confidence up before they feel able to go out to a club or join a club or something like that. So, you know, I think it's across the board in that respect.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a great point, and we all talk about in TennisONE as well, and everybody talks about growing the game. I mean, these are some very tangible ways to grow it. I think what you just said is a great point. A lot of people are too embarrassed not to go as a beginner to walk out. I don't care if they're walking out on the nicest country club courts in town, or they're going out to a local public court. There is that kind of, let me try to hit some balls first.
Yes, yeah. It's a bit of a tennis has a bit of a stigma, and I see it all over the world, of course. So, you know, it's you know, and you know, it's not an easy game to play, as you know. You know, you hand and eye coordination for the ball, and at the beginning, if you've never played before, you know, you can quickly get put off because you think it's too difficult. So, you know, Slinger, you know, on its lowest settings, provides you a little opportunity to get a bit of practice in, get some confidence, you know, hit some tennis balls, and actually, you know, I think it's about playing tennis anywhere, anytime, because you don't really need a court. You know, if you look at our Instagram, you'll see people playing in the street. You're playing in their backyards, driveways. You know, you just want to hit a ball. People setting up nets in their yards and hitting balls into a net. You know, rather than on a court. So yeah, I think it has a lot of applications. You know, that are just going to underpin and try and, you know, help people feel more confident getting into tennis, if you like. So I think that's a good thing.
Are you, Mike? Are you thinking about getting into other sports? I think I saw that somewhere. I don't know if it was your website or an article, or is that the goal?
Yes, absolutely. We're going to be a game improvement company providing, you know, launches like this to different ball sports. So, of course, there's some very obvious ones which we're going to be introducing in the spring. So, pickleball, of course, is just a massive sport now in the US. So, we've adapted the tennis launcher for pickleball, and that's coming. Padel tennis, I think, is growing even in the US, but it's also, of course, it's massive around the world. Yeah. You know, and so it's a very social sport, and so we've adapted the tennis launcher for Padel. In Japan, we've adapted it also for soft tennis, which is something unique in Japan. And then, you know, the next round is that we've got some drawings on the board. You know, once we're successful in tennis and being established, and not before we can, you know, not running before we can walk. You know, we're looking at the baseball and softball market. Yeah. You know, with a similar idea of translating our effectively what we call our transportable, versatile, and affordable launcher to those sports. Cricket is another sport outside of the US, and even lacrosse and soccer, believe it or not, there are some adaptations that could happen in the future, but tennis first and the variants of tennis, then softball, baseball.
Well, this is impressive, and I can understand why you've made this the next stop in your career. I mean, it's as a tennis player and looking at beginner tennis players, I would consider myself more an advanced tennis player. At least I used to be. But
Yeah,
I think you're right. I think you're right. It's attractive to all demographics and across the board. I think anybody can use it. I think it's great for a parent that can't play tennis to go out with with their children and run the ball machine, the Slinger, and it's really an impressive product. And we're wishing you the best of luck. And we obviously are very, very happy that you've supported TennisONE, and we've started to work together. And
sorry, I think what you've done with TennisONE is also quite incredible. So for me, as someone in tennis, I've seen a lot of adaptations of places you can get information about tennis. But what you have on TennisONE, bringing everything together under one umbrella, making it also a kind of an piece of entertainment as opposed to just a source of information is absolutely fantastic. And I know that I keep telling all the people in Europe that I come across, hey, download this app if you want to know what's going on in tennis. So yeah, I'm sure it's going to be a great partnership, with Slinger and TennisONE for the future. And I wish you guys all the success too as you keep building on your base.
We appreciate you coming on. And
that's great, Randy.
And
thank you too. Thanks for your time.
Sure, and we'll speak again soon.
Yeah, no, all the best. Yeah, and good luck at the Open.